Hey, Allison Schell, how you doing?
Hey, Jason, very nice to talk with you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's a new endeavor. It's a little bit scary, kind of venturing off and trying something new. But I was telling you before we started recording, the response has been really positive. And usually when I reach out to people, they said, "Yeah, sure, I'd love to do that," because I think they want to share their stories.
Yeah, and I find a lot of museum people are really interesting, and we kind of get overlooked sometimes when, people are interviewing other people or other professions. But I just think museum people are so fascinating. So I really appreciate you having this podcast to kind of
Yeah, I
share stories.
yeah, I had Lindsay Baker on this morning from Maryland Humanities, and I sort of last minute titled the podcast "Museums Are Everywhere" because whether you interpret that word to mean the arts, history, humanities, the people that are working in these places are everywhere. The service organizations that, from cleaning services, HVAC, I mean, they really do, especially this mid-sized and small institutions, they impact the economy. And I just wanted to get to know and talk with the people who are part of that. So,
I agree. I think that's fantastic.
yeah, it's been fun. So we're going to start off a little bit. So did you like when you were 5 or 6 year old? Did you were like I love history and I want to work in museums and art and do all that? Was that the revelation or did it come later in life?
Oh no, no, you pegged me pretty well. So my father is a retired history teacher, middle school history teacher, and so our family trips were always going to historic sites or museums because that was his passion. And I'm sure as a kid I rolled my eyes a few times, but for the most part I loved them. And I think my first museum memory is at like age 5, going of course to Colonial Williamsburg,
Mm.
and I even remember going into a house and someone gave me a whisk and they're like, here you go, you got to whisk eggs or clean the floor. Not really, it's something a kid really wants to do, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting able to touch something and experience history that way. And that obviously that memory has stuck with me. And my dad is a very much a hands-on learner, so he would do these week-long. He'd do like a Revolutionary War week and a Civil War week, and he taught out at a rural school out in Pennsylvania, northeastern PA.
Oh.
That's where I'm from.
Hmm.
And these he would just give these kids this amazing experience of trying food from the era, and he would get reenactors to come in and things like that. And I don't think I realized that until I got older, how much of an impact his teaching style really has on the things that I do in museums with programs and exhibits. So when I turned 16 and got my driver's license, I didn't go to the mall for the first time. I didn't go on any sort of ventures. I went to a local history museum to volunteer on the weekends.
It's pretty nerdy.
It's really nerdy. I think I got involved in the living history field. This I can't believe I'm revealing this, but
It's okay.
because of you, Jason.
Everything on this podcast.
I made my first set of stays. I was just like pumped to be dressing in anything from the 1700s. And I made my first set of stays and wore them to school, but like underneath a sweatshirt, which just like
Is
people
this
who
like in high
understand
school?
what
This
I,
is during high school?
yes, because I
Okay.
really wanted to wear them. That's how much of a nerd I was. But as a 17-year-old volunteering in museums, I think even then I was picking up on museum issues just because I loved them so much. And I volunteered at a place out in downtown Easton, Pennsylvania. And how Easton is set up is there's a big center circle in the square where a lot of activity happens, and there are little like hubs or streets that come off of it. And so the place I was volunteering at was kind of off on one of those hubs. And so when I was there on Saturdays, I'm pumped to give tours. I'm so excited to be in this historic building. And, some people would stop by, sometimes they weren't. And I saw the activity in the downtown circle. So I actually gathered up people and we got brochures, and I'm dressed in historical costume and went out to this circle and handed things out because I realized, hey, we got to do something to let people know that we exist.
Wow.
So I think I was just destined for museums, but I didn't understand it then.
So then did you go on to study? What I mean, what happened after that? Yeah.
Yeah. well, I ended up in your town. So I went to Dickinson College
Oh,
for my undergraduate degree.
that's right.
Uh, yeah, so Jason and I will have some connections here for those listening.
Yeah.
uh, and I got involved with the archives there. As you know, they have a fantastic archives at Dickinson, and they really kind of helped cultivate me into, in a way, a museum professional. I got to do exhibition development and design there, even though it's, you know, little archives and they do really tiny exhibits. They kind of let me run with it, and I think I really fell in love with exhibition development then, because I didn't realize it was a thing that I could pursue as a career.
Hmm.
And not that I do that now, but we'll get into that in a moment. But, you know, I have a very creative side. I have an artistic background. And then I have my history nerd side, which loves to research and things like that. So, you know, exhibition development was like a combination of both.
Hmm.
Um, so I really credit them a lot for kind of leading me down the museum path. And then I took a museum 101 class with Professor Aaron Fight with the art gallery there at the
Hmm.
college, and it just all clicked for me. I
He's
was like,
he's the director there at the art museum, right?
yes,
Phil.
yep, Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also give him a lot of credit for helping kind of steer me on, like, if you want to go into career museums, here's what you need to do.
Hmm.
But I took his 101 class and my mind just like lit up, because I realized now that there was a career for this that wasn't just historical reenacting at a site.
Yeah.
There, you know, it's a whole big field. So after that, I was like, nope, this is what I need to do. So I applied my senior year. I was very motivated to a bunch of different college universities. Got into the George Washington University for my master's. Went for exhibition development, which I wish someone had told me then, that unless you're going to be working at a very large institution and you have those developed skills, there's nothing really in like the middle or lower level for exhibition developers, unless, you know, you're adding to it in other areas like with
Right.
curation and things like that. So I was kind of not set up for failure, but I just didn't realize that I wasn't exactly going to be doing that. But I still ended up doing it because I worked in small museums and you do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, I got in there, did the 2-year program, and then ended up landing a job as a director of a small museum right out of grad school,
Huh.
which I was.
Where was this? Where?
This is at Milton, Delaware, at their little
Okay.
historical society. So I was only 24, and I give them a lot of credit for selecting me to be a director there as a young professional, because they took. I feel like they took a risk with me, because I had never really led an organization before.
Hmm.
So I mean, they saw something that they liked, and that story. I hope I'm not rambling on too much. I
No,
can
it's
tell you
great.
real quick how I got there. So I really wanted, obviously, a job outside of grad school. I knew, just it's worse now, but even then,
Hmm.
back when I was in school, you know,
Tough.
jobs are hard to come by. It's a very competitive field, and so I was like, damn it, I'm gonna get a job. So I sent my resume out. I was pretty bold, to museums and places where I wanted to work all over. And I was like, I need to find one of those emails, because I don't even know what I said in it. I'm kind of like nervous to look
Yeah.
like young Allie, what she's writing.
I
And
think we
so,
all reach a stage where the cover letters especially become pretty like, well, what the hell? I'm just going to be bold, and maybe that'll attract someone to put me on one of the piles instead of in the recycle bin.
yeah, I mean, you have to come up with a strategy. I know that you've done that.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
And sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. But in my case, Milton was the one that responded. They're like, hey, we're actually looking for a director right now. Please send in a cover letter. We'd love to, you know, review your documents. And I thought, oh my gosh, there's no way. I'm so young. They're never going to select me. So I ignored it. Don't recommend doing that. And then they sent me a follow-up email. They're like, you know, hey, we're looking forward to seeing your cover letter. We're going to be starting to review on Friday. Do you mind sending it in? And I was like, oh, okay, now they're actually serious. Sent it in, immediately called me for an interview. Must have liked something about me and then hired me. So not sure if sending out the resume to different museums is a strategy now, but
Hmm.
not a bad idea if you're.
Do you have any? I've been a big proponent of the cover letter being really important. And do you have any recollection of what you might have said in your cover letter, or the
Oh
gist?
gosh, I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah, that's
Honestly, I have
okay.
no idea what I could have said in there that they would have been like, this girl is great for a director.
I
uh, but I know that, I mean, I've been involved in museums since I was about 16 consistently. So,
yeah,
um,
probably mentioned
I,
that
yeah,
maybe.
yeah, I have to find it. I have no idea what that would have prompted them. I'm underselling myself, of course, but
Yes, you
uh,
are. I
but yeah, I don't know. I think it's just they saw passion, and passion sometimes will show through and can take you a little further.
That's it. That's one thing. Like I hope a takeaway for people looking for work, and especially people just trying to get their foot in the door, because we know how hard it is. The cover letter and the resume somehow, and I think maybe more so the cover letter, has to convey some passion and boldness and some uniqueness,
And
because
it's hard.
you probably sat on the other side of the aisle where you get 50, 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes even more, and they can be very uniform in nature. Like, for 5 years I've done this, and for
Yeah,
2 years I've done that, and I feel that I'm exceptional at teamwork, and sort of like, all right.
yeah.
And they might be, but you got to go beyond that if you're going to capture somebody, to get them to like hold it up for another second longer and put it on the maybe pile.
Oh yeah. I think I got a job because I've been, I don't know, we'll get to this eventually, but I did a
Yeah.
portfolio, and I think a lot of people should do that more. Especially
Okay.
for me, I do programs, so I just put together a whole packet of information. And there was one job that I really really wanted, and I was like, I'm just going to blow it out of the park. I'm going to pull all my tricks out of the bag, and I sent them like, here's all this stuff that I did for this one program,
Yeah.
and I think that's what sold it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's great. That's awesome. I wrote a grants resume for my position at the Cumberland County Store. So I submitted a resume, and then I developed a grants resume of grants and foundation gifts that I was able to secure over my career. And I think that's a valuable tool for people, because that's kind of a go-to thing. Like, how much money have you raised? And the thing that I think maybe, I don't know, they never really told me about it. I think one person said we were impressed by the grant resume that you sent in, but I put my failures in there too. So if I submitted, a $30,000 grant and I received it, I put it in there, the date it was received, what it was for, and then if I had a 10,000 where I made the application but it didn't come through, I put that on there too. That wasn't awarded. Um,
Jason, I think that's fantastic. Oh my gosh, I'm going to recommend that to people. I think that's wonderful. And yeah, I mean, failures, I mean, it takes a lot of work to put together a grant. So, if
yeah,
anything, it shows just the amount of time and your writing style and things like that.
yeah.
Um, and project ideas, because a lot of times you're submitting a project. So, I think that's wonderful.
So there you go, people. Two amazing portfolios and grant resumes. You got to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and passionate cover letters and resumes.
Yes, and cover letters are hard. I've helped direct a lot of. I'm big into mentoring young professionals, so
Yeah,
as much as I can, because I feel very fortunate that I was able to get a job as a director so early on.
yeah.
That I feel like giving back, but
Now,
yeah,
do
I
you
mean, it's hard to do, to convey so much in such a short cover letter. But
now do you lean on the what side do you lean on? And I have to get better at asking leading questions on these podcasts. It's like, Jason's terrible. Do you lean on the side of the resume and the cover letter having all of like the Microsoft Word like columns and the little logo thing, or are you just strictly Word document with the words on it?
I am so boring with mine. I am just a straight document. I really need to go back. I mean, I'm not looking to a job right now, but
Right. Yeah.
I need to go back at some point and just spruce it up. And I don't even know honestly, I don't know what the current trend in resumes is. I'm just a straightforward gal.
Yeah. I think another thing that people can do is, if you worked at an institution and you're trying to get a job as a director of a special collections library, and you worked at an institution and you spent 50% of your time working on manuscripts and 50% of your time doing little exhibits in a case, accentuate, if you're looking for that job at a special collections library, accentuate the stuff that you did that was more related to that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, to adjust your resume to do that.
Oh no, I would do that. It would, I don't know. I feel like there's other fields where people can just shoot off a resume. Like my partner, he just is like, nope, I just shoot off a resume and a basic cover letter and it's done. For us, I'm like, I feel like yes, have to tailor my resume to each job pretty much.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the cover letter changes every time. It takes so long.
Yeah.
But I found, through editing a lot of resumes and cover letters in the past year, people sell themselves short. And so one point, I know I'm taking away from my points at the end of this podcast, but
No, it's all right.
we're talking about it, so I feel like I need to mention it. It's just like, don't sell yourself short. It's really hard, I know, to like toot your own horn sometimes, but yeah, I mean, that's how you get the job. You have to really sell what you do and be proud of what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not worried about that now because you're at the Marshall Steam Museum. Tell us about that position.
If you had told me as a 16-year-old that my dream job would be working in a steam car museum, I would have been like, no way. But yeah, no, this is my dream job. And maybe we'll talk about why. But yeah, Marshall Steam Museum. So we're located up in Yorkland, Delaware, which most people listening, where's Yorkland? So we're right on the border of Pennsylvania and Delaware, up in the northern part of the state. Out near Hockessin. I'm trying to think of the other museums that are nearby. People might know is Winterthur is not far along the gardens. So we're in the Brandywine Valley, and we're on Delaware's newest state parks property. So it's Auburn Valley State Park, but we are our own entity. So even though we're also a friends group, we kind of operate a little bit separately from the state park, even though we do work in partnership with each other. So it's really interesting. I've never worked in that kind of a situation before, but it's awesome to have our own museum that we can take care of. We have a collection of working steam cars, so the largest collection of operating steam cars in the world, which means we take them on the road, we let our volunteers work on them, learn from them, we give people rides in them. So it's really interesting.
Wow. How was it set up?
Yes, so the Marshall family, who donated both the land for the state parks and also the contents of our museum, the steam cars, collected them as a sort of a hobby in the 1940s and 50s, and then throughout after that. Originally, Clarence Marshall, who was kind of like the founder of everything, he was a dealer for Stanley Steam Cars for about 10 years, and then new technology emerges, no one's driving steam cars, so he moves on to other things, and then becomes, this is kind of the emergence of cars as a hobby, antique automobiles and things like that. Those sort of hobbyists emerge in the 40s, and so he gets back into it, and then just gets obsessed even more, and acquires, just 20 or so steam cars that he repairs, and then his son takes over when he passes in the 60s, and continues the legacy. So yeah, it's a really neat story, very generous of them to just give all of this back to the state for people to enjoy. And I don't know, the site just has like a really, really nice spirit about it. People here are just really, really wonderful to work with, and I think Tom, our founder here, really instilled a lot of like good behavior and good ethics and things, which I've not really experienced at other site, but people here are just like really wonderful. So,
well, so we don't get into the negative. What are those positive values that you see there that you think it would be good to rub off at other institutions that you were talking about, Tom, the founder?
Yeah. So one thing I think that has trickled down from him and sort of his attitude is, treating everyone with kindness and respect and appreciation. So I've I've never really gotten a bonus at a job before. And this past year I got a bonus, which I think is unheard of in this field.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, you hustled this year and we appreciate it. And I think, if there's little ways that places can do that, I'm staring up at this board commendation letter that I also got
It's not
later
Tom
on.
hovering over you, making sure that you're saying exactly what you need to
Yeah,
say.
he's dead. So maybe
Oh,
in
okay.
the
His spirit.
afterlife. No, he is a good guy. And like they wrote up this really nice thing of like, hey, these are all these really great things that we see you doing and we appreciate it. And I've
Mm,
just like, we don't do it for the recognition, and I do it because I love this field and the things that I do, but I just never felt so appreciated as I had here. And it's
mm,
weird to me
yeah.
because there's other places where you don't get treated well, and I've experienced that too. So
I was probably guilty of this some where, we say thank you a lot to people. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. But like, are we really showing appreciation by giving them an extra piece of recognition, a bonus, a special day off? It's something instead of just the verbal constant thank yous.
yeah, I'm with you on that because I struggle through thinking of what is the right way to thank someone and make them feel appreciated. Is it, a lot of times people complain about, the proverbial pizza party. And it's hard because you're like, well, how do I want to show people that I actually care about them and I want to thank them for the work that they do. And there's sometimes limitations to that, or, sometimes you want to do more than a thank you message.
Mm-hmm.
But I did thank you videos because everything was virtual this past year to each of my volunteers, which took a while.
Yeah.
But I think like even something as simple as that, I think taking a moment to handwrite something or do a video message, um, maybe
Yeah.
speaks a little louder than some other things. But I
All right.
don't
I
have
have,
that answer. I
yeah,
wish
I
I
have a
did.
technical question for you. So for the person who knows absolutely nothing about how steam operates a vehicle, what is like to encapsulate, like, for the simple minded like me, like, how does steam get the wheels to turn? I mean, what happens?
So you're basically just boiling a big pot of water, like a big pot of tea, big thing
Okay.
of macaroni and cheese.
All right.
And what you're doing is in this big pot, you're building up pressure. So you don't want to fill water all the way up to the top in this steam pot because it won't have any room to expand and let steam grow. And
Okay. Yeah.
so there's lots of other things you're doing. You're heating up these. There is acetylene, which is a type of fuel that you need to kind of heat up. I think I just said the wrong one, but there is a fuel that you need to heat up to
Okay.
vaporize. So there is some fuel involved with operating it. But mostly it's the pressure that builds up, and then
Okay.
which takes about 30 to 40 minutes for the steam car to get, thinking about like can't even tell you how many gallon drum it kind of is that's full of water.
Yeah.
And then once it is, you don't hit any gas pedal. There's no gas involved in that sense. You're just opening up a throttle and it goes. So
Oh.
a lot of times steam cars did really well on hill races or hill climbs, which were an early way for car manufacturers to kind of show off the power of their
Uh-huh.
vehicle. And Stanleys would just blow everyone out of the water because they just had,
Yeah.
no pun intended there, but they would
Right.
built up, so much pressure and that they could just fly up the hill and beat all the cars that they would be banned from these competitions. So it's a great question, and they're very quiet. So
Hmm.
a lot of
Were
times you don't really hear them.
were they like was was the vision for them before the technology changed? I mean, were they going to be? Did they vision themselves as the next Tesla or something, and then the technology just changed so rapidly that they just got caught up and couldn't go? Like, what happened there?
No, these are all really great questions. I love this. This is my favorite thing to talk about when talking about our cars.
Mm.
Is you have three competing technologies. So you have, of course, gasoline powered cars like the Model T. you have the steam cars, like our Stanley steam cars, and then you have electric cars. And all these three were kind of competing at the same time. They all have pros and cons. So electric cars, they're quiet. They take like zero time to start up.
Right.
You know, like a Tesla, you just like boop, push it and it goes. But they only go about 30 miles before they need to be charged. There's not a ton of charging stations, or they actually had charging carriage houses back then, which just like, if you look up early electric cars, it'll blow your mind.
Wow. Okay.
I love them. I love our electric car. You know, in the steam car museum, I'm in love with this electric car. So that one kind of loses out eventually just because it's limited and they're very expensive. So it's mostly like a showy item. A lot of times just in cities that you would see electric cars. And then you have steam cars, which, you know, run fine. Mostly you just need to make sure your tank's filled up with water, which you can use, you know, a stream or a trough that, you know, horses are using or things like that to fill up your car. But they are a little bit of a mechanical nightmare. You need to have a little bit of technical skills to be able to operate them, which the everyday person is not going to have. And I'm an everyday person, so I don't operate our steam cars here because I just don't have an engineering mind. So because of that, and they take about 30 to 40 minutes to start up, you know, they're kind of knocked out of the race soon too, just because of those limitations. And then you have gasoline cars, which, you know, are cheaper than both the gasoline, the electric and the steam car, especially with Ford creating sort of the assembly line way to make cars a little bit cheaper. They are smellier. They have a risk of, you know, breaking your arm getting the car started. Takes maybe like a minute or two to get the car started, so not super long. So because of that, and it was fairly easy to operate, that's in a nutshell how gasoline powered cars went out.
Was there a time when they were sort of making their way before it kind of got overshadowed by combustion and okay.
Yeah, I would say there's probably a period of about 5 or 8 years where, I mean, they were selling a lot of cars and you would see them on the road. They're kind of like the sports car, we like to say, a lot of times of the day. And I think that's why Clarence, one of our founders' father, originally probably wanted one, because you see them already, you're like, yeah, I want the sport, you know, 16-year-old who wants to drive something is like, I want the sports car.
Yeah.
And that would have been, you know, your Stanley steam car.
Did they did different companies jump in the game for a while there, or was it just the Stanley?
Yep. No, there are other companies. So there's White Steam Cars, there's Doble, but soon, you know, I think Stanley's hung around a lot longer, probably a little longer than they needed to because they were, you know, almost, you know, not obsolete, but just getting beat out by, you know, gasoline powered cars. But yeah, I mean, there's other people in the competition too. A lot of people just remember Stanley's for a lot of different reasons. They're in movies, you know, after the fact, and they just have a neat look about them. They're very steampunk like.
Yeah. Is there have you been exploring or tried any unique outreach or exhibit things with that, with steam kind of being a backdrop?
Yes. Well, yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So sort of, I've been working with a company called Time Looper, and they come to SMA a lot of times in the hall, kind of learn the exhibitors hall. And so they do augmented reality or virtual reality experiences a lot of times for museums. And so they worked with us to create a virtual field trip this past year and did a 3D model of one of our cars, which is really neat because I think, you know, we have a very unique collection that's really different. So I try to capitalize on that as much as possible. So that's sort of the most unique thing that we got to do this past year is, you know, work with them to create, to use our cars to kind of dabble in new technology. And I have other ideas for where I want to take this, but like a actual virtual reality experience where you can learn how to fire up a steam car and take it for a ride is my dream goal. But that's a grant project.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't think anyone else would have that. So
there's gotta be, is it literally STEAM or STEM opportunities with a place like Marshall?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talk a lot of times about engineering, innovation, invention, creativity, things like that, that all
Yeah.
kind of lead into, this period. We call it the magic age of steam. We kind of self-termed it, from like 1900s to 1920s, when steam was really big, because steam power is also, in train transportation, of course.
Fire engines.
Fire engines, you got steam boats. Steam was used to heat up people's houses. Steam becomes the first sort of independent, I'm not going to term this right, but mode of transportation. So, before then you had to rely on wind power, or, things like horses, or,
Yeah.
what have you. But now, you had just, as long as you could build up enough fire and pressure, and steam pressure, you could just go.
How does the what's the, you're not lighting a fire under the car, I guess. What is the,
You are.
really?
That's how you get the that's how you get the water to boil. So a lot of the
Wow.
earlier ones, their frame is wood. I mean, you're heating up cast iron, and
Oh,
this fuel, um, underneath, your big your
there's like a
big
little
pot of
hopper
water.
that the wood goes in and starts
Not
burning.
not with the steam car, but with the train, yes.
Oh, okay.
So it's the fuel that's heating it up, and you're actually using a torch. Um, yeah.
Oh my word. I was familiar with like some of the old fire engines, steam pumpers, and um, they go to a place or whatever, and they got to get the fire going to get the water pumping. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time.
Are there people are there people that are learning the trade, so to speak, to kind of keep it going? How are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. So we have something here called the STEAM team, and originally it came out of our founder Tom Marshall. Obviously wanting to pass along what he had learned and kind of instill that in a whole generation of people. And so I think here, just at the start of that, we just have a really big like learning environment, and really hands-on education for volunteers and for people that are visiting. And so, yeah, we still have people that are being trained. Some people get trained and, aren't operators on the steam cars, just because there's a lot that goes into it. You're also working with collection items. So,
Mm.
we make sure actually everybody is a member that participates, because, I think it instills some seriousness into, what they're doing. It's not just, your neighborhood car that's beat up, and you're, tinkering with it. Like, this is a rare object.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have regular work sessions on the cars once a week, and
Wow.
we'll take them out. Obviously, last year was a weird year, but sometimes we'll take them out the roads. We do. I've not gotten to experience this yet because of COVID, but ice cream runs in the summertime, where we take our cars out after they've been working on them. So yeah, we have cars in the shop that are constantly being worked on. And I guess there was one car we had, I was not here for that they did a whole body restoration and let the volunteers work on it. Took several years, but they learned so much from it, doing it. And it cost us a lot less than if we had done it professionally. We have done professional restorations, but, I guess they had decided that was the one that they wanted the volunteers to work on. So I think that's wonderful.
I would think firing things up, letting people even ride, and you said there's something that's got to be so crucial to what you're trying to do, the mission, because if you're not doing that, people are just seeing this thing sit there and they have no concept of what it is or how it works or anything.
Yeah, I mean, until you actually sit and ride in one, you have no. It's just like, you can explain it all you want, but then you're like, oh, okay, now I understand. You kind of fall in love with it because it's so quiet, and it makes like this little noise, this chuffing noise, and it's a very smooth ride. You feel like you're going a lot faster than you are, because a lot of them, you don't have enclosures fully around you.
Okay.
So you feel a lot of the wind in your face. You're like, oh my gosh, I must be going like 50 miles an hour. You're going like 20.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
really, that's the, one of the better ways for people to really understand this technology, and for, in turn for our volunteers to understand how it works is, to repair it when it breaks.
Yeah. So do
So
you have any golden nuggets for like the any before we do the lightning round, any tips for people that are you know either trying to get a job in the profession and in museums, or maybe they work at a niche kind of a place where it's sort of a kind of a unique, like you guys have a very unique, I mean, of course it's broad, your vision of it's broader than,
yeah,
but from someone from the public, the outside, they're like, oh, that's a
it's
very,
very focused.
very focused. Any tips for dealing with that, or anything you want to share?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just really important to be as involved as much as you can, even if you aren't able to get a job in a museum at this time.
Yeah.
There's volunteer opportunities. Sometimes boards, will open up to individuals that maybe can't give funds, because I know that in the nonprofit life doesn't always pay the best, which is a whole nother topic. But
Yeah.
um, I think something that has really gotten me to where I am today is just always being involved somehow, volunteering or being on boards and things like that. So even if you can only dedicate, a couple hours a month to something,
Mm.
it just, it adds to your resume. It shows that you're constantly involved. I know some people have started blogs and things like that, or, have a podcast, or, there's lots of different ways that you can still be involved in the field and show that you're committed, and that you're doing something, even if you don't have a job right now, or if you're in process of getting one. Um,
Yeah.
it's probably one of my best words of advice, as much as you
Yeah.
can.
No, and I think what you said about even if it's just, a few hours a month, that keeps you on people's radar, and shows them, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that. And it's tough because we all know the feeling of graduating, or just trying to start out, and you're just like, no, damn it, I don't have time for that stuff. I need a job. I need, like, I saw this cartoon one time. It was like in the New Yorker, where
Mhm.
these two young people were sitting in an alleyway, and they had these signs, and it said something like, "We'll we'll take any job, any entry level job. I don't need health benefits." It's like,
Yep.
and these in the cartoon, these two like robber baron type guys with the, is it a monocle?
Yep. Yes.
They walk by the two young people, and they're looking over at them, and they say something like, these young people, me, it's all they care about is me. It's like,
Yeah. Like, it's hard. I know I'm coming from a place of privilege right now, having a job, but it's like, yeah,
yeah,
it's tough.
right,
So, and I think a lot in this field is who you know, and I didn't want to believe that for a long time, but I think it's just, especially for me in Delaware, it's very small because you kind of
yeah,
know everybody. But the field itself can be really small, and that can be a plus in some ways. That if you get yourself on the radar and you get connected with people in a bunch of different ways, they'll remember you. Or I always am looking out for jobs for other friends or colleagues of mine that are,
yeah.
looking out there, and you know, I
I
think
know.
that those kinds of relationships can go a long way if you foster them and you put yourself out there a little bit. So
And remember, if you get the interview, they already know you're qualified.
yes, yes.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, thank you. And one last point I want to make too is,
yeah,
know your worth. It's so hard to be talked down, especially in this field of, oh, I don't want to say, I'll just put a low number out there because I just want them to hire me. If a
right,
place wants you, they'll either stick to whatever number they're putting out, they want to put out there, or they might be willing to compromise.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
it's really hard to do, I think, especially as a woman.
Mm.
I know that I was asked, what, well, this is, I won't say this because this is, I think, a bad a bad thing for a place to do. Of like, oh, what would you want to get paid? Which is not good because I undervalued myself. But I learned from that experience. I was like, wait a minute, I could have asked for more. So
Yeah.
you never know. I think just go for it and maybe say a couple thousand above what you're asking, just to
Right.
never know what will come out of it. So
And smile. It's okay to smile and laugh a little bit during an interview. So many times people are trying to gauge your personality. And if, are we going to get along with this? But they already know you're qualified. Otherwise they wouldn't have called you up and brought you in for an interview. You're there to showcase your personality. Basically, that's the way I look at it.
yeah, I agree. I mean, when I call people in for interviews, I'm like, okay, you're qualified here on paper, but I want to see how you are as a person. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I tend to see a lot of potential in people. So
Yeah.
those interviews are hard because I'm like, well, a little extra guidance. They could be really great.
Yeah. Well, this has been fun and a lot of smiles. Are you ready for the lightning round? It's going to be
Yes.
tough.
All right, let's do it.
All right. You have to choose a sport.
Oh, why are we doing sports for museum people? No,
it's my quirky thing. I decided it's like my top 10 version.
It's fine. I'm just giving you grief.
All right. So, lacrosse or roller derby?
Oh, roller derby.
Really?
Yeah. Do you not know? Do you not know, Jason? I used to play roller derby.
Used to?
Yes. Well, pandemic and life got in the way.
But you're going to get back into it, right?
We'll see. I mean, it's been enough time away from it. I have one hobby at a time, and I already have another hobby, which is volunteering for other museums. So I have no time for other things. But yes, I will, in a heartbeat, pick roller derby over lacrosse.
All right. A bagel or a donut?
Oh, a donut. It has to be an old-fashioned donut.
You don't want globs of stuff all on top of it?
Go to a cake donut.
Just a plain cake donut. No
plain cake donut. No frills.
No frills. All right, and then you're traveling to one place. You have to choose. You're going to go to France or do you go to Italy?
Oh, geez. Neither. Which is probably not the answer.
You don't like either one of them?
I mean, I've been to both. I guess I'll pick France.
Oh, it's all right. You've been to both.
I know. That was very.
I guess if I had to go back.
Me to say.
Yeah.
I have other places on my list to go.
All right, tell me. We'll break the rules. What's another place that you've been really wanting to go?
India. Well, India is one place, but I don't know if I'll ever get there. And then Japan, but I've been there. But I would go back in a heartbeat.
Japan
over anywhere in Europe.
I'd like to go there.
It's worth it. It is the most incredible experience.
Yeah. Is it just like the feeling that you get from like the Hollywood of just sort of the beauty of it? Is it really? It's like that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a culture that just cares about like little details and things. It's not just like, okay, here's a potato chip. It's like, oh, well, we have like 50 different kinds of potatoes that we've taken, years to figure out the best way to make, this potato chip a special experience for you. So, it's just like something it exists here, but it's so widespread that I just appreciated that part of the culture. And yeah, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, neat. Well, Ali, this has been fun. And what I'll do is in the video, you'll see I'll put website things up and any other thing you want to plug, I'll put that up. Yeah.
Thank you.
And people can click in there and check you out. So
perfect.
Yeah. Thanks for everything you do.
There's so much more I want to talk about. Oh my gosh, I need like a part 2.
Yeah, we need a part 2. So, all right. Well, I'll check in with you later and thanks again.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.